Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are jumping into West Asia, a region that is just packed with contrasts. It's defined by its absolutely critical geography, its massive resources, and of course, its deep-seated conflicts. This is a place where ancient history smashes right into modern geopolitics, and we're going to unpack it all.
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll kick things off with a geopolitical landscape. Then, we'll get our hands dirty with the physical terrain. After that, we'll explore its greatest challenge, water, and its greatest prize, oil. And finally, we'll look at the strategic choke points and see what the future might hold for this vital part of the world.
Okay, let's dive right in. Look, to understand almost anything happening in West Asia today, you have to get a handle on the one central rivalry that pretty much shapes every single alliance and conflict across the entire region. At its heart, the major fault line is this intense rivalry between the Sunni bloc, led by Saudi Arabia, and the Shia bloc, led by Iran. Now, this split has roots in a religious schism from centuries ago, but today it's really a modern power struggle for who gets to be the top dog in the region. Iran projects its influence through what's often called the Shia Crescent, a strategic arc of power that stretches from Iran, through Iraq, into Syria with its ally Assad, and right to the Mediterranean with Hezbollah and Lebanon. This crescent is a direct challenge to Saudi Arabia, and is the chessboard where so many of the region's proxy wars are being fought.
But wait, it gets even more complicated. What's so interesting here is how other powerful players add all these extra layers. Take Syria, for instance. Most of its people are Sunni, but its leader, Bashar al-Assad, is part of a Shia-affiliated group, which makes him a crucial ally for Iran. Then you've got Israel, a major power in its own right, which sees Iran as its #1 threat, mostly because Iran is funding groups like Hezbollah. And of course, there's the United States. Its rock-solid alliance with Israel means it's a huge external player that really shifts the balance of power.
Okay, let's switch gears from politics to the physical geography, because the terrain itself, the mountains, the plateaus, the deserts, this is what dictates where people can live, what they can farm, and even how they interact with each other. It's literally the foundation for life in the region. First off, a super important concept to get down is the peninsula. Simple enough, right? A piece of land surrounded by water on 3 sides. Well, West Asia is home to the biggest one on Earth, the massive Arabian Peninsula. And that one geographic fact has shaped everything from ancient trade routes to modern naval strategy. It's a big deal. And that's totally different from a plateau. A plateau is a high, flat area of land. A perfect example is the Anatolian Plateau in Turkey. Now, it's called an intermountainate plateau. Fancy word, I know, but it just means it's stuck between 2 mountain ranges. And that high elevation is exactly why Turkey has a much cooler climate than a lot of its neighbors. You know, the contrasts here are just everywhere, even in the deserts. When you picture a desert, you're probably thinking of the classic sandy ones in Saudi Arabia, like the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, with those epic rolling sand dunes. But Iran's deserts, they're a whole different beast. They're often salty and rocky, like the Dasht-e-Kavir, which is just this vast, brutal landscape of salt flat. And framing all of these landscapes are these massive mountain ranges. In Turkey, you've got the Pontic and Taurus Mountains squeezing that Anatolian plateau between them. In Iran, the Elburz and Zagros ranges act like giant walls. These are not just lines on a map, people. They are rain catchers, they are natural fortresses, and they've shaped distinct cultures and borders for thousands of years. All right, let's turn our focus to what is, without a doubt, the region's most critical and fiercely contested resource. And here's a hint. It's not oil. It's fresh water. In a part of the world defined by how dry it is, water is everything. You know, that question isn't just a hypothetical. For one of West Asia's most important freshwater lakes, it has become a harsh, devastating reality. And it serves as a pretty stark warning for the entire region. Just look at this. The shrinking of Iran's Lake Urmia is a gut punch of a visual. It was once this massive, thriving freshwater source, vital for farming, vital for wildlife. And now, it's been reduced to almost nothing because of drought and just unsustainable water use. The worst part? The exposed salt flats get picked up by the wind, creating these destructive salt storms. But here's the thing. Water scarcity is nothing new here. And for centuries, people have come up with some truly ingenious solutions. The Qanat system, used mainly in Iran, is just brilliant. It's basically an underground tunnel that taps into groundwater near a mountain and carries it for miles, completely preventing it from evaporating in the blazing hot climate. And of course, you can't talk about water in West Asia without talking about the big two, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. They start up in the mountains of Turkey, flow down through Syria and Iraq, and eventually merge to form the Shatt al-Arab. This river basin is the famous Fertile Crescent.
the historical heart of the region, the cradle of one of the world's very first civilizations, Mesopotamia. And for a truly mind-bending natural wonder, check out Turkey's Lake Van. Its salinity is 330. To put that in perspective, the average ocean is only about 35. The water is so salty and dense, you literally cannot sink in it. It's pretty wild. And that high salt content even keeps it from freezing over in the winter.
Okay, so we've talked about a resource defined by its scarcity. Now let's flip the script and talk about one defined by its incredible abundance: petroleum. This is the black gold that has completely shaped West Asia's modern history and cemented its importance on the global stage.
This one number you're seeing, it explains almost everything. More than half of the entire world's proven conventional oil reserves are right here. This unbelievable concentration of a resource the world desperately needs gives these nations an immense amount of strategic and economic power. And at the very heart of all this wealth is Saudi Arabia's Ghawar field. This isn't just a big oil field. It is the single largest conventional oil field on planet Earth, a true behemoth that has been fueling the global economy for decades. So why does all of this matter so much to a country like India? Well, here's your answer. A massive chunk of its energy, we're talking both oil and natural gas, is imported directly from this region. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the UAE, and Qatar are absolutely essential energy partners. That means the stability of West Asia is a vital national interest for India.
All right, last section. Let's look at two critical pieces of the future. First, how the flow of all this oil is controlled through strategic choke points. And second, how modern innovation is starting to tackle the region's oldest and most stubborn problem, that lack of water. See, it's one thing to have the oil in the ground, but controlling how it gets to the rest of the world, that's a whole other game. The flow of oil relies on these narrow maritime passages, or choke points, and none is more important than the Strait of Hormuz. A huge percentage of the world's daily oil supply has to squeeze through this tiny strait, making it one of the most strategically important strips of water on the planet.
But the story of the future isn't only about oil. It's also about some incredible human ingenuity in the face of scarcity. Just look at the agricultural technology coming out of Israel. Things like drip irrigation, which puts water right at the plant's roots with almost no waste, or soil solarization to stop evaporation. These technologies are total game changers, revolutionizing farming in dry lands and really providing a blueprint for the rest of the world. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. For decades, West Asia has been defined by two things: its oil and its conflicts. But as the world slowly begins to shift its energy sources, is it possible that the region's future will depend less on what's buried deep under the ground and more on how well it can innovate and manage its most precious, life-giving resource, water? That's the question that's going to define the next chapter for millions of people.